Hello, welcome back to the Shrink Down. Ladies, how are we feeling today?
Good.
Good.
Glad to be
Good.
Happy New
back.
All
Year.
right, Happy New Year. So, recently the Surgeon General released a recommendation about putting warning labels on alcohol regarding cancer. So, today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about all things alcohol related, sober curious movement, alcohol use as we get older, and how we feel after a couple of drinks. But before we get into that, let's do our 4-minute faves. It's been a while. So, who wants to start today? Anyone?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barry.
So we updated our dining room in our house,
Oh
obviously.
yeah, you
I
showed
don't,
us pictures. Very
yes,
nice.
I don't have
Yes,
another dining
cute.
room. So the dining room in my house. Um, and we had gotten a couple consultations from professional designers, local designers who, by the way, were fantastic but they are pricey. So then
Yeah.
I kept seeing ads for Havenly, Havenly on social
Okay.
media. And I, on a whim, signed up and used them to design the room, to update our dining room. And I could not be more pleased. I am
Ooh.
getting no kickbacks from Havenly. This is my recommendation. You meet virtually online live with the
That's nice.
designer. You send pictures from every angle of your room. You send all the measurements. You send like a footprint based on your floor plan, and you send all that info. Then you click different ideas for inspiration, almost like Pinterest.
I love
You click
that.
around,
Yeah, me
they
too.
send you 3 different samples, and then you go back and forth and you tweak it. And then you can order what they suggest. And a lot of it's like CB2, Article, Crate and Barrel, West Elm, some a little higher end than that, some a little lower end, but you don't even have to, it's just their suggestions. So you can also just use that
Okay.
as inspiration. So
To like go
we
get your own
sort of
stuff.
took what we liked and used that
Yeah.
for the dining room and left what we didn't, and then made some of it our ideas. But I could not be more happy. I think it was like $150.
Oh,
I was going to ask.
wow.
Wow,
Total.
that's
It
amazing.
was, I thought it would be sort of half-assed. I was floored by how thorough it was, how user-friendly, like clicking on the website and the vision
Yeah.
boards. Very impressed. If I ever want to redo another room in the house, I will definitely be using them.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
I love
awesome.
that.
And
Yeah.
it looks great. I mean,
Yeah.
you sent us those
Yes, it
Yeah,
pics.
looks
looks
It
good.
good.
It
looks
looks really good.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
love it. We ate dinner in
We
it
can
as a
post. We
family.
can post a picture of it
Yes.
on our
Yeah.
Instagram and
Yeah,
then tag Havenly.
I will.
Yes.
I love that.
And you should definitely tag the adorable wallpaper you have.
Oh yeah,
Like,
rifle.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cute too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did some rifle paper wallpaper on an accent wall, and then had the rest of the room painted. So yeah,
Love
I'll
that.
We'll
take some
post a
pics.
picture so everyone can see. All right, well,
All right.
What
Okay,
is yours?
so mine's a little unusual. Um, so I am currently watching a Korean show on Netflix, which is also good. It's called King the Land. I keep saying King of the Land, but it's actually King the Land. That is not what I'm talking about, though, because what inspired me was my first love, which is a show called Crash Landing on You. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It is Korean
With
so
subtitles.
with subtitles.
Okay.
Yes, you don't need to know Korean to watch the show. And my mom first told me about this show, and I sort of was like, oh, okay, yeah, mom, whatever. But she convinced me, and I watched the first episode, and I was like, oh, this is good. And it is 16 episodes, but each episode's like a movie length, so it's a
Oh, wow.
long
wow.
show. But it's a full show. Like it's done. Like that is the show.
Oh.
Yeah. And it is about a woman, an heiress from South Korea, and she has a paragliding kind of mishap accident that lands her in North Korea because she's like living close to the border. And she ends up in like the military area of North Korea, and this army officer like catches her and basically realizes quickly that she's not a threat, but there's some stuff that's going on in North Korea. I mean,
Obviously.
obviously.
Mhm.
And so he ends up hiding her and then trying to help her get back to South Korea. And one can only imagine what ensues as they have their little, hidings and having to pretend. But what is great about all of the Korean shows I've watched, but most of all with Crash Landing, you have all of these characters that you grow to love. And when the show ends, you feel like you've lost
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And it has everything. This show has everything. It is romance, it is action, it is drama, it is funny, it is family, it literally has everything. And anyone who actually has taken me up and watched the whole thing has texted me, been like, where has this been all my life? One of my friends, her dad, like my friend watched it. She had her dad watch it. He was like, I think this is the best show I've ever seen in my life. So,
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Is it
So-
recent, or was this a show from years ago that you guys are discovering?
maybe 6 years ago. I'm
Okay.
not sure on the date, but
Yeah.
what's also very cool is that the leads, I don't think they were together when they started the show, but they are together now, and they're
Mhm.
married and have a kid. So it's like, I mean, their chemistry was like amazing, and clearly for good reason.
Yeah.
Now I had one friend that did start it, and I feel like she didn't even get through the first episode because she was like, it's so slow. And I'm like, well, it's not. I mean, we have things that are just like fast, 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 fast,
Yeah.
fast. It's not that. There's a lot of looks, a lot of moments, a lot of this, but it nothing builds the tension. I don't dare say. I was talking to Terry about this.
Terry's like,
Terry
I'm
went,
out.
I'm
I'm
out.
out.
I'm out.
Terry was like, would I like it? I was like, you might not like it.
No, the answer is no.
So tell us again, what's the name of this show?
Crash landing on
Crash
you.
Landing.
So Vanessa,
Because
I
she
actually think
propels the porter.
because she literally lands herself and crashes into him.
Very literal title.
Well, she crashes into a tree, but then she crashes on him. Here's who's gonna love it. If you love Pride and Prejudice, you love Jane Austen,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
love those things that build and
Yeah, yeah.
build and build, you will
It's
love
your
this.
jam.
If you are
Slow
not
burn.
into that, no.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But if that sounds like something you would be like, please watch it. You will love it. I know it.
Does this fall under like their soap opera categories? I only ask because the way that you describe the way they structure it sounds very much like how in Brazil they do soap opera. So like, you know, how here like the soap operas just never end.
They're daily. Yes.
Like right, like for years. So like over there they do them and they're like 6 months long, like one soap opera 6 months long, and then each episode. So like it's like a 6-month long
thing.
It's like a series, though.
Yeah, but
Like a mini
so it's like,
series.
yeah. So it's like a mini series,
Mhm.
and then it ends, and then there's like a new soap opera, and a lot of the same like
Gotcha.
actors
think-
and stuff, and then so that's how they do they call them soap operas. I don't know if they still do, but like that's what that sounds like to me. Anyway,
I think that is because I've now watched, I'm on my third of like the romance kind of ones, or like, and they are all like that. They are isolated, one
Yeah.
season, all about 12 to 16, 17 episodes. And then they're done.
Yeah.
And then I've seen a couple shorter ones that are more like dramas. Like I saw one recently called The Trunk, also Korean. That one's a little darker. And that one was like 8 episodes. But again, that one could have a second season, I suppose, but it could also be done. So that one's sort of Squid Game, obviously, which is very popular. And that one's now going to have a third season. So yeah. And I was watching Crash Landing before Squid Game. So, but they were about the same time, the first one.
Oh, cool. So we'll also tag that on our
It's so
Instagram.
good.
Okay.
All right, Lauren, what are you sharing today?
So I'm going to share something and then an update. Now, I know it was just Christmas. This is actually a gift my kids received. But I mean, there's birthdays and things like that. And this is not that expensive. And in the dead of winter where we all live, it's also a really good option. Have you guys heard of the Box Bowlin app and game?
No.
Okay.
No.
Box Bowlin. It's a headband. You've seen this before, probably. It's like a headband and there's a red ball at the end of it, and you box it and like it goes up on your TV. So I don't know if it was my mom or Santa that got it for the boys, but it was a Christmas morning gift, and it was super, super frustrating for them at first. Like they didn't know, like, what am I doing? Like, right. Once they got the hang of it, they have had the most fun during break doing this. Obviously it's like a little device you put on your head, but it's an app as well. But what's great about it, so they can box on it, they can do different competitions. You can do competitions like you can battle people if you
wanted to, or you just are trying to improve on your own like hand-eye coordination and how well you can do it. But they also have, as part of this little app, they have other little games on there. So there's one of like how fast you can clap in 5 seconds. It's like silly, like easy. Again, there was like a little bit of a learning curve, but like easy fun for the kids. We've enjoyed it. The adults all got into it over break. So it's actually a lot of fun. Box Bowling app.
Is it
And
so it's on like iPad or iPhone?
so you get the ball. So
Okay.
because it's like a headband with like an actual ball that you punch.
Okay.
You get that, and in the little package, there's a QR code, and then you just download it on whatever device you want. But then they recommend you screen mirror with your TV, and
Okay.
that really is the kids have done it on my phone. In fact, we were at a restaurant over break. They were doing it at the restaurant just with their hands. So it's on my phone, but screen mirroring onto a regular sized TV is really fun because then you can like be in the living room and be doing it, or in the basement or whatever. So box bowling, I highly recommend it. I think the price, I'll get you a link, Vanessa, and we'll link it. It's really reasonably priced and a lot of fun. It would be a really, really easy gift for somebody, or just like something if you needed an activity for a long winter weekend or something like that. And then the update, this was months ago, but the shoe warmer dryer thing that I've gotten lots of people asking, like, what's the link? Can you send me the link? It is really, really good for gloves after kids are out sledding. So it's just a like multi-use. We realize we always put that kind of stuff in the dryer, snow pants and like hats and gloves and whatever, but putting the gloves on each of those individual little things that are part of that dryer, oh my God, they're dry in like 5 minutes. So just an update for those.
That's huge, because my kids, they're drenched.
Oh, it's gross, right? Yeah. So we found another use for it. So
we just got slammed with snow today, and Ev was actually outside playing in the snow, and she came in, her socks were sopping wet and her gloves.
Okay. Everything.
I was like,
Everything.
oh, that would have been good.
I mean, obviously for the boots for the season, it's great as well, but the gloves, yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm jealous you guys got snow. I want snow.
Oh, not that much, but we used it.
We've gotten like
Sledding down some dirt and some barely snowy hills.
It's been pitiful here.
We like rip open the curtains when we hear it.
It's like this much.
It's like,
we did.
I can still see the yard.
We're lucky we're on a golf course, so there's enough hills that just kind of they didn't get the sun, and so they had like this much on it. So we made it work. But anyway, Vanessa, what you got?
I am going to share a makeup. So I'm going back to like my OG sharing of makeup products. So I got this, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I always like to try something for a good amount of time before I say like, okay, this is like a good one, because I try a lot of different skincare stuff and makeup stuff, and it doesn't always all pan out. So this is from Tarte, and I've shared their eyeliner, which I love and have gone through many eyeliner sticks. But this is their hydrating primer. So it's like a base tape hydrating primer. So you put it like on your skin, like you do all your skincare products. So you would put this before you start like your makeup, like your foundation. And it's just so hydrating. Like I can't quite tell you, like it's like putting on like the best moisturizer. So like I do my moisturizer, I put this on top, but it really helps like hold your makeup, especially like your like foundation. But it just feels so good. And it also has like some skincare ingredients in it. It's supposed to help with like fine lines too. So like I always like those like multi like things that like, so multi-use. So it's like helping your skin, but it's also helping like keep your makeup in place, and it's helping, your makeup look better. So like even like my foundation that I use has like SPF 50 and like all these things there. So I like using things that have like lots of purposes to them, multi-purpose. But this is the hydrating primer from Tarte. I have like, I would say normal to dry skin. So like, I don't know how it works on other people's skin, but it's really nice product that I've been using for a while. And like I said, I don't like to share unless I'm like, this is one of those like really good ones that I've been using for a while. So
you have it with you right now?
I don't have it with me. I have a picture of it.
You'll link that.
It's this. I'll link it. It's this little tube here, but I love it. So and especially like in the winter when your skin is really dry, like it just helps like.
So Vanessa, tell me what the point of a primer is. I think I have a primer, but like I'm always like, so it's not a lotion, although obviously it can, but it's not your foundation. So what is literally what is it?
So it's supposed to help like make the product go on smoother onto your face. So it's like, if you imagine, it's almost like another like layer before you put on that, because you know when you put foundation on, it kind of goes into all the like cracks and wrinkles and all the stuff. So yeah, so it helps.
Wrinkles. I've got none of those. None of those.
I do know. I do know that.
Yes, very, very familiar with them. Yes. So, all of you all. All the cracks and crinkles around our faces, ladies. Well, I don't want to speak for anyone.
Ordering now.
So it helps like smooth out your skin basically before you put on the foundation, and it also helps then like blend it better. So like again, like you know, sometimes you put on your foundation, it's like it doesn't feel like it's blending in, so it helps like blend it. And then this one also helps kind of set it too, so like it just looks more kind of natural, like instead of like, okay, I just put this layer of like foundation on. So yeah, so it's supposed to help like it settle into your face nicely, I'll say. So yeah. So I mean, I don't use it all the time. Like definitely if I'm going somewhere nice, then I'll like, okay, let me put on my primer. So I wouldn't say that I use it every single time, because sometimes I just don't care.
Like I don't have foundation.
I don't today.
I don't use foundation that much. Like I'll use it if I'm going out or if I want like an extra. So I can see how you only really use it if you're doing like a full face.
Yeah. Like definitely if I'm doing a full face, then I'll do it. I don't do it like daily, just because, like I said, I don't.
Nope. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Exactly. No. I don't. Then I just let the crinkles and the cracks be. All right. Well, now that we've shared our 4-minute faves, we're going to move on to today's topic. So, ladies, what are we thinking? What are we thinking about the Surgeon General's recommendation?
Okay. Thrilled.
Wasn't thrilled. I thought the timing was interesting and strategic. A lot of people
tell us more.
Yeah, so let's wait till after all the holiday festivities have passed. Let's try to capitalize on people trying, or a lot of people do dry January or damp January annually. Let's really jump on that. I think to release that type of statement on December 15th, it wouldn't land
the
way
lost.
It does. Yeah, I think it would have gotten lost in the mix. Point. People are like, I want to have my mimosas on Christmas morning. I want to drink my wine at the holiday party, X, Y, and Z. But people are often health focused in January. Dry January seems to pick up steam even more year after year. So I think it was very strategic. I have been personally experimenting with sober curiosity for a couple of reasons over the last couple months. And the reading, the Quitlet is what they call it, that I've been reading, that has been pretty straightforward about where the World Health Organization, the WHO, stands. So I think for people who are embedded in cancer research, this is not a surprise. But I think for lay people like us, like I remember reading it, like there's 4 main carcinogens WHO has identified: radiation, asbestos, tobacco, and alcohol. And the way we treat those 3 versus alcohol in our society is so dramatically different that I was like, whoa. So again, do I think big alcohol is going to fall down the way big tobacco did? Like, no way.
But I think that took a while to have big tobacco fall. Like, I don't think it was. It took time.
Well, I was just reading that like a lot of these because of this movement, the sober curious movement, and just like the general decline in alcohol use, with like the Gen Z generation, like they've talked about how these companies are kind of swinging towards non-alcohol and low alcohol options. So I think that that's where they're going to start putting some of their money, so that they don't lose money, is catering to those 2 different types of, alternative drinks.
Well, and one thing that I was thinking of is a couple months ago, I share my office suite. There's like 7 offices, and we share a suite and a waiting room at my private practice. One of them is a social worker in his mid-60s who primarily works with healthcare professionals with addiction histories. So lots of nurses, physicians, other healthcare workers who are in some sort of recovery. And he does both an abstinence and harm reduction model. So somewhat some moderation, harm reduction, as well as more kind of the traditional AA total abstinence. And he was in my office chatting with me. This was maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And we were just talking. And I said, you know what's interesting? My nieces and nephews who are in their 20s do not drink the way people did when we were in our 20s. The
Mhm.
turning 21 rite of passage is not really what it used to be nowadays. And I said to him, I was reflecting on doing intake interviews with teenagers and young adults. And I think about how they would answer the alcohol use questions 15 years ago in my
Mhm.
office versus the last couple of years. And their responses when I ask about it, almost, I feel like they're looking at me like, okay, boomer, like, no, I don't drink. We don't drink. Nobody
Mhm.
drinks. Like, we don't do that. And when I think about the people I was seeing in my office, even 10 years ago, even maybe 9, 10 years ago and 15 years ago, they would be more forthcoming, obviously concealing if they were underage, but they would say, oh, only on the weekends at parties with my friends. But
Mhm.
I'm not even getting those responses anymore. I was sharing that with the social worker whose name is Dan. And he said, oh, yeah, that's why all the breweries are closing and they're all merging. He said, all the people, nobody's going to them anymore. And I was
Mhm.
like, that's interesting. And I Googled it and he's right. In Milwaukee, all these breweries are either closing or
Wow.
merging because, and it's not all of them, but there's a lot of them are merging and closing because Gen Z in particular is not taking after previous generations in terms of their alcohol consumption.
So let me ask you a question, and this might be, and you guys, we can write ourselves a note or table it. But is that because of alcohol specifically, or is it because that generation is not going out and socializing
Mhm,
in the
Yeah.
mhm.
same way as other generations? And guess what? That should have a Surgeon General warning also. I mean, there are a lot of consequences.
Yeah.
Really, there's a
No, I agree.
consequences
I'm laughing. I
to
Black
agree.
box
them,
warning.
yes,
Yeah.
for living their life like
Yes.
this. And it's an interesting point, Terry. And I think that they were, if we had to guess, and I'm sure we could all do a little bit of work and then we could follow up with this episode and kind of take that kind of twist on it, is like what their activities are different. And on the one hand, they might have healthier digestive systems, livers, et cetera. I mean, some of the cancers that it's oral cavity, pharynx, larynx,
7.
esophagus,
7 of
Seven.
them. Yeah.
Seven.
colorectal, liver, and breast. Obviously, the liver one, the breast one, and the colon, the colorectal, um, those ones are obviously maybe more commonly known. I don't even know if that's the right term, but all of these are like in the, oral cavity, pharynx, larynx, esophagus. We're talking about like sort of the, ENT kind of area. So that, I mean, that's awful. But I don't think that's why young people aren't, drinking. They're like, there's a whole nother piece to, and what that looks like for their health, right? Like, so they might have better health when it comes to alcohol, but I will not be surprised. And I would be interested to know in what other ways their health, well, we know
Well,
their
in
Well,
mental
they're
health,
they're
their
not
mental health is
drinking.
worse than anybody's.
They're
Right.
not drinking and they're not getting driver's license. I mean,
they're
Right.
Yeah.
well,
No, they're not meeting any of those milestones.
not only
Yeah.
that, it's in general, they're more cautious and risk averse. So you're spot on, Lauren. When
Well,
they
and they're
look,
not at college. That was the other thing I was going to say when you were saying that.
yeah,
There are more and more people in their early 20s or right out of high school that are choosing to stay at home for the first few
Mhm.
years for multiple reasons, right? COVID
Right.
comes into play, but financials, taking, undergrad courses at community colleges and things like that. But it's just, I'm curious, and I know this is about, again, this like sober curious and the alcohol piece of things, but that generation specifically will probably skew the results of people with this sober curious movement, because I don't think they're doing it for the same reasons as maybe people our age or older generations might be doing it for more of health.
mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't think that younger generation's doing it for health. I think they're doing it because it's what's the word I'm looking for? A
It's
consequence
it's
Yeah,
a
it's
risk.
of
Well,
it's a
right.
consequence of their different behaviors, their social behaviors.
Well, in general, everything's lower. Teen pregnancy,
Right.
crime, drunk
Right.
driving, getting your driver's license, any risky behaviors are lower than any previous generations. And I think you're right. I think alcohol falls under that umbrella that
Yeah.
if the
Right.
generation in general is more cautious and risk averse, alcohol is going to be under that.
But then
Um,
they're also not leaving the nest as
right.
a result of not
Right.
figuring out how to take
Now I
risks
now I
and
will say
be
this. This is
self-sufficient.
interesting, and I'm going to put one of my good friends on the spot, Steph. And so when she hears this, she has a sister who is 12 years younger than us, 13 years younger than us, who got married
Okay.
a year or two ago. And Steph went to her bachelorette party. And she said, wow, has the bar scene changed? She said, and this was in Old Town on Wells, which is a neighborhood in Chicago that has bustling with bars, restaurants, all in this strip of Wells. Steph said, at 11 o'clock at night, it was sparsely populated. We thought it was like 7 p.m. She said, almost everyone's on their phones the whole time.
Oh,
They're at the
yeah.
bar.
Oh,
We saw this last year.
She
Yes.
said,
Where were we?
yes, we were at that place, the Moon, Electric Moon, or
Oh, yeah.
something.
In
Moon,
Savannah?
Where did we go last year? Oh,
Yeah.
Savannah.
with the
Yes, and they were all
slide.
sitting on the couch on
They
their
were
phone.
sitting on their couch.
Yes,
Yeah, and like they
their
were
phones.
posing for their selfies or
Yes.
like looking at
and
their
we were the
phones.
only ones like on the dance floor, like,
Well,
like
with
why
our
is anyone on their
drink-
phone?
When I asked Steph, I said, how was your sister's bachelorette party? And Steph's reply was, nobody knows how to party anymore. She said people have a drink and then they hang out for a little while, drink some water. They cap it at about 3 drinks a night. She's like, and then they're like, right. They're like, okay, that's good. We're going home. She's like, nobody's like doing shots. Nobody's, she said the in general, she felt like the vibe in the scene was very different than it was 20 years ago when we were in our mid 20s.
Not quite the same as our bachelorette parties, is what you're saying.
Well, I was looking up to see, why there is a decline, and you're right. The part of it is the social part. So, like, I was reading about like how COVID had like, obviously with COVID, people like there was a significant decline in drinking because of the social aspect. But there's also like some like racial stuff too, like ethnicity stuff. So a lot of the initial like earlier studies were primarily like white people, and so like non-white people, minorities,
non-Caucasian.
So they tend to have always had lower alcohol, and now they're being included more in some of these. So like the research is a little skewed too. So it's a little bit skewed. And then they talked about how there is an increase in health and safety awareness. So like I think it's a combination of like there's definitely social, but like because they have access to like all this like social media stuff, like I think some of that health awareness kicks into. And then they also talked about how marijuana is now like
Going
swapping, like right. So like, they're not drinking, but that doesn't mean that they're not
experimenting
with marijuana,
mushrooms, ketamine, marijuana,
right?
I mean, it's not it's
so it's kind of, I think, changed. So I think it's a little bit of all of those reasons.
I don't think it's just one thing. I feel like
I think it's all
a
of those
hybrid.
things. I
Isn't
think it's all
this true with all aspects of health that they may shift, things may shift, and people might, we're looking at the Surgeon General's warning, we're looking at these cancer risks. Certainly that's going to give people pause, if not motivate them to significantly engage in some kind of behavior change regarding alcohol. But like, there's always something. And I don't mean to like minimize the alcohol piece, because obviously they have the data. They wouldn't put it out without the data. Right. And it's like when isn't that horrible? When the Surgeon General, when the National Institutes of Health and things like that came out with the tobacco warning, right? Years ago, there's research to back it up. But there's always something.
There's always something.
It's like like too much fat. No, now you need fat. Like, eggs are terrible. Actually, eggs are wonderful. Like, there's always something. And I haven't done enough of the work. And I don't know if any of you guys have done any of the reading. Is there any information on the way alcohol is being produced? And
that's different.
I'm thinking sugar.
Good question.
Like, I immediately was thinking like the links that are coming out with sugar in different cancers.
Right.
And they don't say that in the statement, but I'm really curious as to whether or not, like, if you're getting a really well-produced wine from a winery and they are saying to you, we're using organic grapes and we're not putting any crap on our grapes and this is all this is, right? Is that different than some of these alcohols that are filled with sugars and
the way your body's having to process it? I think that's a valid question.
But then also like quantity, right? Like, is there any discussion about like, so like
things that are going to do damage,
right? Like if you drink 1 glass of wine versus like, obviously the more you drink, right? But is there this like level where you could drink it and it's not going to have these kind of negative side effects, right? Like,
isn't the suggestion any amount? Isn't that what they're suggesting of putting on these labels?
Yeah, because like I remember listening to Andrew Huberman's episode on alcohol maybe a year or so ago. And I remember my takeaway. I listened to it on a drive home from work and I came in and looked at my husband and I was like, you're really not supposed to be drinking anything was like the way your body processes it when he really got into the biology of it and the
Isn't it
mechanisms.
fascinating though? There used to be like,
I
you
was
should
like,
drink a glass of red wine a
Or
day
your
and
heart
you
relax.
live
your heart.
forever or whatever it was.
Right.
And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like
Yeah.
Right.
everything, like, are we just in a time
Right.
where this has been popularized? The
Right.
research is there. So like, and it's
Right.
going to get to your point, Terry, the timing of the message, like it's going to
Yeah.
get some traction right now.
Yes.
Right.
And so people are going to like, I don't know, buy into it more.
Well, I think like you were saying that he was talking about, he being Huberin,
Yeah.
that he was talking about like the actual like science to it. I mean, they have said that as we get older, that our bodies change. So our liver
Yeah.
does not process the alcohol, and then
Mhm.
the reduced muscle mass also affects the
100%.
way that alcohol affects you. And it's funny, like I did not know anything about sober curious, like I didn't know anything about it. And then I was like reading it, and I was like, oh, I've been doing this now for several years.
For a long time. Right.
I
Well,
mean, you
yeah,
guys all
because
know that I like stopped drinking, like I like don't drink that much. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I did that naturally. And I did
Yeah.
that because I felt shitty after I was drinking. And I was like, I really don't like the like negative side effects of drinking. So like
exactly.
I think some of it is just literally like your natural, like your body's getting older and you're processing it. So you're like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Well,
Like
and they always love the term, but it's
oh yeah,
almost
yeah.
more like you became curious about your health however many years ago. And so as
Right.
a result, you started shifting things, but not just alcohol,
Right.
shifting
So
your workouts, your
Right.
eating habits, like whatever. But they love it. I mean, social media loves a term, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in for just a second because I've been sort of dabbling in the like sober curious sort of what it is for like about 2 to 3 years now.
Mhm.
The first time I kind of heard it was the woman, My Sweet Life, which is now the Sober Mom Life.
Yeah. My kind of
And
sweet.
My Kind of Sweet. Thank you.
Yep.
And she stopped drinking, and I remember her talking about her reasoning, and I was sort of like, huh. It sort of sounded like eerily familiar of sort
Yeah.
of tying alcohol to so many things. Like, oh, it's Friday night, let's have some wine. I'm going out with my
Sweet.
friends, I'm gonna have some wine. We're going on vacation, I'm gonna have wine. It's Christmas break, every single day I'm gonna drink. Like all of these things. And then as you get
COVID.
older,
That's what-
yeah, it's COVID. And
It's
then as you
vape
get
night.
older, as a woman, you
Yeah.
do it starts to affect you differently. But then so like you're waking up, you're
100%.
like, this feels horrible.
Mhm.
And so it was a little like light that went on in my head. And I started looking at my own drinking and sort of like trying to sort of explore it. I got a lot of the quit lit literature. I've had patients who I've worked with who actually have gone through that. And so I've like learned from them and we've learned together. And so I think that with the sober curious movement, there is health for sure as an aspect. But I think there's also this idea of like, there has been this huge push, and we are in the thick of it for women in the last 20 years, that alcohol is fun. Alcohol is relaxing.
Yeah.
Alcohol is a stress reliever. Alcohol, cures all things. And
It's how you celebrate. It's how you
it's how you
enjoy
celebrate.
things. Yeah.
Motherhood. Like, how can we get through motherhood without the wine? And once you start to see that, you're like, it's everywhere. Like especially towards women. I mean, it's not even that's why women's
Actually more, I would say, more towards
Yes.
women.
Mhm.
Yeah, in terms of marketing.
Yes.
I agree.
And so I think that has been my thing of, I don't even remember a time where I would like, I went through high school. I didn't drink at all in high school. I didn't even drink for the beginning of college until like later in my first semester. And so I'm like, I don't even remember what that's like. Like what that is like. And I think that now you put in getting older, you put in the health risks, you put in all of that, and you're like, huh, what does this look like for me?
Right.
And I think it's very individual. And so
absolutely.
like everyone has their own personal relationship with alcohol, which I know sounds weird.
No, it's true.
No, I think it's true of most
true.
health items.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what's really weird about alcohol, this is something my husband and I have talked about. It's the one thing that people question if you don't do it. So if I say I don't drink water, people are like, Oh, well, okay. I guess you should, right? Or like, I don't eat sugar. I don't like if I said to somebody,
I don't drink soda.
I don't
Oh,
drink
okay.
soda. Oh, okay. Well, I
That
don't
makes sense
drink.
because it's not healthy.
Right. Then it's like,
Right.
"Ooh,
Yeah, yeah.
did you have a problem? Is it like
Mhm.
why?" So it's one of the very few things, if not only things, that if you say I don't indulge
Yeah.
in this, people they really question it and they push
Yeah.
it. And what happened for me over the last year or two is my body, without a doubt, started changing how it deals with alcohol.
Mhm.
Even
Yeah.
a small
Yep.
amount, like my sleep, waking up, how I felt the rest of the week, my energy level. I would feel hungover after like 2 glasses of wine, even good, like a good quality
Yeah.
wine. I'm like, "What is going on?" And what happened at the same time is I developed frozen shoulders, which
Yeah.
I didn't learn is likely after meeting with orthopedic surgeon and a PT and a chiropractor and my OB-GYN is likely related to as part of a bigger picture of perimenopause symptoms. And my several of the physicians I was seeing were like, well, you should really try a period of cutting out alcohol. We're going to add in, hormone in terms of going back on birth control pills, all of these things. And what I was doing for the last 2 years was everything but cutting out
Mhm.
alcohol. And
Right.
I was and then I was finally, what it dovetailed for me was that I was like, all right, let me give this a try, right? Like, let me really cut it out, because have I really had a period outside of my pregnancies since I was 20 that I haven't
Mhm.
drank for a period of time? Unfortunately, the
Mhm.
answer is no,
Mhm.
outside of pregnancy. And at the same time, we have a extended family member who has 2 years of sobriety under their belt, that has really had my husband re-examine his relationship with drinking and alcohol. And so that really sort of happened at the same time. And we're both like, let's see what it's like not drinking
Mhm.
for a while. And it is a very interesting, you feel like you woke up from the Matrix. It's a very interesting exercise, going on a date night together and not drinking, or going to certain events or activities. And it's been very interesting. And I don't count days. It's been a couple months. Like, I'm not counting days or anything. And I don't, like, I say to myself, if I feel like I want to have a drink again, I will. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying like because that's the question I've gotten, like, so like never again, or just like for now, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I doubt it. I'm sure I'm probably gonna have a drink again, but like, I feel like it's got to be, the evenness and the energy shift that I've had, and the sleep is like,
The sleep.
Yeah.
oh, the sleep,
Yeah, it really
the
That's
does.
what I've
sleep.
heard from everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anxiety levels go down. Like people who
Yep.
just thought, "Oh, I'm just anxious."
Yep.
They cut out drinking and they're like, "Oh,
It-
I actually wasn't as anxious as I thought."
Yep.
That
Right.
was alcohol.
Right.
Yep.
The sleep is huge.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
skin.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
my God, after a night of like a couple glasses, I wake up, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm like dry and gray. I'm like,
Right.
ugh.
I
Well, I
just
know,
cannot
like,
tolerate a hangover. I'm like, I just
well,
can't
that's why
tolerate
I
it.
stopped, like, drinking hard, like, several years ago. I was like, I didn't like the way that it was making me feel the next day, and I was like, "No." And yeah, the sleep thing, like, I already have, like, my own sleep issues, so, like, I already know, like, I have to make a commitment, like, "Okay, I'm gonna drink and I'm not gonna sleep," because
Right.
that's just something I have to,
You sort of
like,
have to
commit to in my.
choose. Do you want to sleep or
Exactly.
do you
Right.
want to drink?
And it's, like, we went out for dinner the other day, and I was like, okay, like, I was like, I want to have a drink. And, people, like back in the day, we used to like pregame. Like now
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
pre-hydrate.
Right.
I'm on my way to drinking, and I'm like, okay, gotta finish
You're
this
the
sandwich
hydration
before,
packet.
My
You're like, okay.
like
electrolyte.
before I
Yep.
pre-hydrate before I go. And then for
Yep.
every, like, my rule currently is like for every drink I have, it used to be like one thing of water, but like I will drink a glass of water, and then I will like stand there. I know you guys have seen me with like a glass of water and a drink in my hand, and
Mhm.
Yep.
I'm like alternating the
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
But I found that that works for me. Like,
Yeah.
I know that if I like super, super hydrate, like that works for me. I don't, I only drink like, occasionally when we go out, sort of thing. And that works for me. So I think everyone has to just figure out what works for them. But I know, like,
Yeah.
I've gotten side eye so many times because I'm like, I don't want to have a drink, or I have one drink, and it's like, that's all you're having. And it's like, yeah, like I feel good. Like, I
And it's
don't,
very personal. Like, it's really just
yeah,
about what feels good for
absolutely.
you and your body, and depends what kind of
Absolutely.
work day you
Yeah.
had and week, and if you've been sick recently or not. And I mean, there's
Oh,
just
yeah.
so much that goes into it.
And I'm like, more power to you. If you feel like you can keep on keeping on, like I have friends in our circle, like our bigger circle of friends, and like they go hard all the time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
good for you. Like, I couldn't even if I wanted to, wouldn't try. And like you're
Yeah.
talking about like skin stuff, like I know
Oh my
people who
gosh.
are my age or younger who drink a lot and they look much older than I do. And I
Mhm.
know it's because of like the alcohol use, right? Like
They've
Yeah.
lived a hard
its toll.
life. Right.
Well, and like in the last few years, my emotions are all over the place. I mean, hello, perimenopause.
right.
And I mean, I could be crying, I could be angry, like just the wind shifts. And so I've actually noticed that if I have like a couple glasses of wine, suddenly if I could be fine, but I could also be very tearful. I could also suddenly hate my husband, like I could be extra annoyed at my kids. And it's like, I
Oh,
don't like that because then it feels
Yeah.
like I'm not getting to choose. Like that's happening to me.
you're
Mm.
Because
not
it
in
might have been
control.
it might have been a little irritation if I had had nothing, but suddenly it's like
All the things. Yeah.
huge. And I hate that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm already feeling too like pulled around by my own hormones. I don't need something else to continually be another factor that's making me feel crazy.
It's so
Mhm.
interesting how like, alcohol affects people. Like you get the people who become emotional, you get the people who become mean, like you get the people who like
Aggressive. Like some people
become
aggressive.
aggressive, or
Yeah.
like some people get like super like relaxed and
Tired.
Mhm.
like
Sleepy.
some people get sleepy, tired, super relaxed and like more outgoing. Like, the person who's like a little bit more like reserved becomes like more, outgoing. So
Chatty.
it's just so fascinating, like the different ways that people,
Mhm.
even act when they're on, like
Mhm.
when they're drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And I think it's as we've all said, it's true of so many things related to our body and how our body takes on something,
Mhm.
whatever that
Yeah.
is. And so if nothing else, if the Surgeon General warning, if it does get printed on labels, if that does get passed, it'll, if nothing else, maybe make people more curious about
Yes.
how they are interacting or how they are metabolizing in the same way that we're all doing with every aspect of our health, I hope, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Absolutely.
so that could be a positive that comes from
Yeah.
this.
I wrote down this quote in one of the books. It was Terry was one that we had talked about, the Beyond Booze one, which we can link because that's a
That'd be
good
great.
one. But it said, alcohol is the solution we have created for the initial problem. Like, so the problems that we're having, we have made alcohol the solution instead of being like, wait, maybe I am just lonely. Maybe I am just bored. Maybe I am just anxious. Maybe I am just sort of sad. Whatever it is, we think that alcohol will make us feel
Right.
less of those things. And maybe it does for like a heartbeat, but
Right.
then it seems like actually usually it makes it then worse eventually, like the next day or later that day. And so I think we need to stop and say, if we're drinking, choose to drink for whatever reason you're choosing.
Intentionally.
Intentionally, mindfully and
Yes.
intentionally,
Yeah.
I'm going out with my husband and I want a nice glass of wine.
Right.
Great. I'm going out with my friends and I want to have fun, so I'm going to drink to have fun. Or I'm bored tonight, so I'm going to open a bottle of wine. No, like that's not going to help your boredom. It might seem like it's helping your boredom, but it's probably not going to help your boredom.
But even if you're aware that that's what you're doing, that's a lot further.
That's true. I am doing this because
then it doesn't sneak up on you. You're bored, right? I talk about in therapy with my patients, don't dirty your pain. And that's like what it sounds like you're describing. It's like this idea of like there's an initial something. And that's not always true, by the way. Sometimes you're just enjoying a glass of wine and it's as simple as that. And we have to hold space for that piece.
Absolutely.
But like if you are utilizing it for other purposes, it's just like any kind of avoidance technique. It's like, okay, but like your anxiety is still going to be there.
Right.
As long as you're aware that you're dirtying up your anxiety right now, then you can get somewhere with it. And so it's like you said, that awareness piece, that intentionality piece.
I think because it's legal, right? Like it's not like you're not consuming something that's illegal, like, right? It's legal. And so there's this, it kind of takes away the like negative, right? It's like, well, how could something so bad be
and also
so readily available to us?
And so
but you know what?
I think Like, it's so
Yep.
pretty, like a
Right.
glass of
The
champagne
way
at a
it's
nice
marketed
restaurant.
or
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah. Like, I mean,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
think
We
of
could say that about
It's so
Scandal.
anything,
fancy. It's like
right?
fancy, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
all the
Think
classy.
things.
about Scandal, the movie or the TV show Scandal. I
Yes.
mean, wine was like her co-star, right? Like she would
Yep.
come
Mhm.
home dressed in her white, everything was white. I'm like, and then she's drinking this giant glass of red
Wasn't it
wine,
popcorn too? Wine and popcorn?
wine and popcorn.
Yeah.
And it was like that was part of her thing. She
Yeah.
made it look
Yeah.
so classy and
Yeah. Yeah.
elegant and like
Yeah.
it was literally her co-star.
Yeah.
Like
But it's like that's true of anything though. You can take exercise, which is a really healthy thing to do. And
Make it not.
outside of moderation,
Mhm.
right? And that's what we're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Outside of moderation, it's not necessarily a good thing. So you just have to like going back to Terry and Wilhelmina, what you both just said about like being mindful and intentional about like why
Mhm.
am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then I think you're okay with
Yeah.
most things.
yes.
Right.
It's
Yes.
when we sort of lose that mindfulness, lose that, in the moment, present moment thinking that we get in trouble with anything, frankly.
Well, and
Well,
it's
and
funny because I think I've said, I don't know who I said this to. I was like, I feel like if I didn't experience hangovers at all
oh, you said this to
and I
me.
slept well,
Yeah.
I would probably carry on and keep
Yeah.
drinking regularly. But it's like I started to reach a point where it was taking away more than it was giving.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
sort of the phrase that like popped in my head one day. I'm like, it's just taking more than it's giving. Like it doesn't
Mhm.
feel worth it. But it's
Right.
also something that I thought I would never, if you told me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, like you're going to take a break, I'd be like, never. And I remember my Aunt Donna, hi Aunt Donna, because I know she listens. She calls this the shakedown, and then she remembers that it's the shrink down.
Oh, I love that.
And
The name came from a bar called the Get Down. So
and she was like, I remember years ago, she started calling herself Two Drink Donna. She's like, oh, I'm Two
Yeah.
Drink Donna. I stick to two drinks because I just don't feel good. And she had a variety of reasons. And I remember thinking like, oh, interesting. Like, does that happen? Like for women as they get older?
yes,
And in the
it does.
last year or two, I was like, oh, okay.
It sure
And it
does.
seemed to happen quickly. I was talking to another friend about it. It seemed the way my
Overnight.
body, like overnight, the way my
Yeah.
body deals with alcohol. I'm like,
So,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, like it's like a
Yeah.
switch went off or something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, the quote that's also in that one book, and I think this goes along with the like mindfulness, intentional, choose your hard.
Yeah, I
like-
love that
Yeah.
quote.
Oh,
So
yeah.
choose it,
Yeah.
like, and
That's a good one.
is it going to be today? I'm just going to be bored. Is it going to be today? I'm going to drink and I'm not going to sleep very well, but I'm just going to do it.
Right.
Okay. Because guess what? I have had great memories of nights out
know.
drinking with you,
Many.
with you girls.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
many. So like I won't. It doesn't. I sort of wish there could be both, right? Like I
Yes.
wish it didn't have to be so complicated, and
That's
it
such
just
is
feels
life,
like
right?
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Choose your hard. Yeah.
Choose your
Choose
heart.
your hard.
Yeah. We find great breakfast spots to go to the next day.
We do.
We do.
Oh, that one in Savannah was so good.
So good.
And remember our waiter who looked really young and then was like closer to our age, and we were like,
Well, that's a whole nother topic is your perception of age as you age.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, I love that topic.
What you
Yeah.
consider to be old, who looks young. Yeah.
you mean when
Right.
I see like babies driving, I'm like, what is that 6-year-old driving a car? Oh, it's not a 6-year-old.
25.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Any more thoughts on today's topic, ladies?
No, I think my only
Mhm.
parting thoughts would be if sober curiosity is something you want to explore, I would do exactly what we just touched on. Like just be curious. Like what am I doing right now? Which heart am I choosing? Am I willing to be bored? Am I willing to, fill in the blank? And then I would also really avoid the countdown trap and I would stay present.
Oh.
I wouldn't count down day. I think that's how I think for the sober curiosity specifically, this is not alcohol use disorder, anything related to that, but sober curiosity, don't count like, oh, it's been 20 days, 25 days. And also don't count to when you think you're going to have your next drink after your break period. I would just be very present and like curious in terms of just let's see what I feel like and what I feel like doing.
And, I also will say that if you are wanting to play around with it or cut back or stop, the Reframe app
Oh, I've
called
seen that.
Reframe.
I haven't used
Yes.
it, but I've seen it. Yes.
It is great because one, it's not, there's no preachiness to it. And you can
Mm.
choose, do I want to just learn? Do I want to cut back? Do I want to stop? And you can choose, and it's not going to, and it very much talks about, it's just educating you, and it's really making you, it's giving you kind of the health aspects, but it's also just like, let's explore your own habits and your own stuff.
Mhm.
And it has you like read some stuff. It has you do journaling. It has you do like a whole bunch of things. And you're really the driver of it. It's not like it's not a quit alcohol app unless that's what you're using it for. So I've recommended that to many people because I think it's a helpful way to, it's sort of a focused way to start to like pay attention.
Think about it more.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, we'll post the books that we've recommended, the app, and then, if there's anything else we think of afterwards on our website. Wilhelmina, remind me, what is our website?
I think it's just www.theshrinkdown.com.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
We
Well,
can
thank
link
you.
it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put all the
Mhm.
links on there if anyone's check it out, and we'll link our faves on Instagram. Thank you today for joining us, and please join us next time on the Shrink Down.